Okay, thank you so much for joining for this interview. Could you please introduce yourself and give us an overview of the type of research you do?
Yeah, so my name is Sonia Lippke. I'm professor of health psychology and behavioral medicine here at Jacobs University. And I have a background in psychology, but I work also very interdisciplinary with other disciplines like computer science and mathematicians and people from biology, chemistry, or business, for example. And also with the students. So I like to teach students from other majors and to integrate that into my classes and of course also into my research and the projects that I run here. So we typically have students from very different majors and minors, and they get then tasks they are interested in or they have some expertise. Hey Vinny, come on in. And so Vinny is one of my PhD students. I just continue with the general questions.
Yes, general questions along the lines of your research and what are the typical tasks for undergrad students? Yeah.
Okay, so we have very different projects. Currently, we have one on communication and how to improve that with pregnant women and their partners and healthcare professionals. We also trained healthcare professionals in the past with communicating better with their patients in general and their families or other people helping them. And student assistances could help us with setting up digital trainings or proofreading slides, or then also improving manuscripts that we write up from our research, or very different possibilities, also depending on the interests of the students. And for example, we had students who were very creative with designing slides themselves for those trainings, or coming up with exercises, or just trying out parts of the exercises and giving us feedback what works well and what doesn't and should be improved. And then in general, we have different stages with research. So it starts with applying for grant funding and writing up grant proposals. Then when we get the approval, then we have to conduct the research, starting with writing up a study protocol, or applying for ethical approval, or submitting something like clinical trial registration, designing interventions, setting up the questionnaires or interviews, putting all the questions into an online format with Unipark, for example, or conducting qualitative research. And with that, I hand over to you now.
Hi, thank you for joining us. Could you just introduce yourself and the research you're working on here at Jacobs?
And maybe also some cultural background.
Oh yeah, sure. So my name is Vinayak, but most people call me Vinny. And I'm from New Zealand and started my PhD last autumn. And I guess what we're looking at is including the people that we study in the research process. So people might have heard of this called participatory research, co-design. We're calling it co-creation, which is the umbrella term of democratizing the research process. So when you're looking to design an intervention or study a target group, how can you actually involve in that study and empower them? And we're applying this approach in developing a training tool in patient safety and communication behavior. So we actually currently have a training tool, and we're hoping to iterate on this using co-creative approaches. And so there'll be a lot of qualitative research. The aim is to work with end users and stakeholders that include medical professionals, app developers, researchers, and other support groups. So I think people can get involved in various ways, helping with the interviews, possibly even with translation of some data, and analysis as well, if that is what you're interested in.
Transcriptions.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And if I ask one more question, could you join the frame, Dr.
Yeah.
Lippke? Thank you so much for your description of your work. That sounds very exciting. I've obviously had a great time working on some of it myself. Could you tell us what is the best way for a student to approach you with their interest? And is there a time of semester that works better for others? Like what are the tips or tricks for students to create these kinds of relationships that then get them to these opportunities?
In general, I am more responsive to emails than to phone calls or a call in Teams, but of course that works as well. I am sometimes in the office, but you can wait for a really long time if you just stand in front of my door. So always make an appointment. And so in general, I appreciate responding to emails quite quickly. So if I write you an email back, please get back to me as soon as possible. And that's a very good indicator that you're highly motivated to actually work with me.
Well, I guess I'm new to this, so but I think emails would be the best way of getting in touch with me, and I guess can kind of go from there and have a Teams call or something to kind of share a bit about your experiences and your interests and how you could best get involved.
And you're more often in the office, right?
Yes, I'm pretty much in the office as well, so
Great.
96, so it's not going to do it.
So emails, obviously, the best way for all of us to communicate without stress or hassle. But also what I think I hear you saying is that anybody can approach you. Any student that's enrolled here, no matter their major, computer science, psychology, sociology, like no matter their major, just if they're interested, they don't need to know you. They can just send an email and say, hey, I have interest.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. That's excellent. That's a great opportunity for everybody.
There are no restrictions in terms of the time of the semester or anything.
Okay.
So whenever it fits you,
Yeah. Great. Okay. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate that. This was great.